Welcome back to Lilia's Mix. I am Lilia Bogoeva, a professional pet sitter and dog trainer, and today I have a special guest for you, this handsome little boy named Ozzy. Now, Ozzy has been staying with me for the past week for a board and train program because he was adopted about 2 weeks ago and his parents want him to work on potty training. So if you are looking for tips on how to potty train your dog, I will use Ozzy's experience as a case study for how to help you potty train your dog quickly, easily, and with as little stress as possible. As you can see, Ozzy is pretty playful. He is about 2 years old, so he's a teenage puppy, and he's a Yorkie or Yorkshire Terrier mix. And he is just such a sweet, loving boy, but of course we had to work on some potty training. So when he first came, the very first step that I took to potty train Ozzy was to evaluate what makes him want to eliminate indoors in the first place. And it was pretty clear that Ozzy is very curious and energetic. So he wanted to mark all these new cool things as part of his territory. Being a boy dog, male dogs tend to mark their territory more. Female dogs do it as well, but male dogs even have a greater tendency to do that. And so I realized that a lot of why he's pottying indoors a lot, given that he's newly adopted, has a lot to do with the fact that things are just so new, interesting, and cool, and he's just wanting to claim all these things as part of his territory. So I would start out the day by letting him have a good amount of time outside to go potty, familiarize with the new environment, and then when I take him inside, I would always have him on the leash anywhere I go, so that way when he's sniffing up an object and looks like he's about to lift his leg to potty, I can interrupt him with a quick leave it and a gentle leash pop so that I interrupt the pottying that he was about to do and take him outside to do it in the appropriate place. Leave it. So the next thing I did once I realized why he tends to eliminate is counter that. Okay, so Ozzy wants to potty more often inside when he's very stimulated and excited. So I put him in a calm environment. Now we do have a dog guest room here at our Fofos Pet Care headquarters, and that's a nice dog-proofed room where it has a good wood floor, it has a bed, we have room for their toys, there's an air conditioning, room for them to eat, room to put a crate, so all that nice stuff. And I just make it this nice, calm, quiet environment without too much new stuff. But of course, since it is a new place, he wanted to sniff around everything. And when I see him doing that, I try to calm him down, interrupt if he is about to potty. And then I started using the crate early on as a way to keep him in an isolated place when I was not able to directly supervise him on leash. So crate training is something that I like to use more as training wheels while the dog is learning obedience and positive habits, as opposed to being something that becomes a crutch. Because it is easy for a crate to become a crutch to avoid needing to train the dog properly on obedience and positive behaviors. Too many people will overuse the crate. So I like to use the crate at the minimum that is required to allow the dog to learn the behaviors that they should learn. So in the first couple of days, I would always put Ozzy in the crate when I couldn't directly supervise him on leash, because in the crate, he did not eliminate or have any accidents there. So that worked very well for him. And then I decided to run an experiment, which is seeing if Ozzy is alone in the dog-proof guest room, will he eliminate? I decided to do that because in my years of boarding dogs, I noticed that about 90% of dogs do not potty when they're in the dog guest room, when we humans are not around making noise, when either we're out of the house entirely or when we're just very quiet and subtle. Now that is something that could work really well if you're trying to potty train your dog. Finding that room where the dog can safely stay by themselves where you can trust that they won't potty in it. So that worked perfectly for Ozzy. I realized that as long as he is in the dog guest room by himself, he does not potty. I go and check everything, all the corners, check the bed, and oh, sure enough, everything's dry. Okay, great. We are on a fantastic track right now. But on the first and second day, when I or my husband was in the dog guest room, Ozzy started to get more stimulated, more interested, and then it looked like he was about to lift his leg to mark something. So then I would, of course, interrupt him and take him outside to potty. So it took some time for Ozzy to learn that the dog guest room is not a place to go potty inside, but by the third day, he was very reliable at being able to be in that dog guest room, even with the human in the room doing something like rearranging the room or working on the computer, and still not potty. So that was great. He was really starting to get the connection between inside of this room, I don't potty. Outside is the place to potty. So that is fantastic. So that is the next tip for how to potty train your dog. Gradually increase the amount of freedom that they can get unsupervised and off leash. So starting out with a crate, then moving to a whole room, then you can start to put them in another room and let them generalize that potty training behavior in the context of another room. Even when I'm not necessarily holding the leash, I still have it there close by so that way I just have it handy. But that was working so great for Ozzy. By the third and the fourth day, going into the fifth day, I see that he's really building an understanding that indoors is not the right place to potty, outside is. So that was great. Now, something else to add to your routine when you're trying to potty train your dog is basic obedience training. And that's because a lot of a dog's ability to hold their bladder is related to their ability to focus on a task at hand. So like I said in the beginning, Ozzy was wanting to mark his territory when he got super excited and stimulated. So training Ozzy on the basics of sit, stay, come on command, also leave it, that was very helpful because I could see that showed Ozzy how to control his impulses. So general impulse control is related to bladder control. Ozzy, sit. Yes. Stay. Yes. Stay. Yes. Stay. Come. Yes. Good boy. And of course, leash manners, because the more that you can guide a dog from point A to point B without them trying to pull and wander off, the more that you can get them to potty in the right places. So even when we're outside, I do discourage Ozzy from going potty on objects like the barbecue grill or the side of the house, because I don't want him to get too used to going on things. I would rather get him used to going potty on grass or on bushes. So what I do is that I start associating the command go potty with him doing his business. How I do that is when I see that he is about to go potty on something, he's sniffing, he's about to lift his leg, I just say the words, go potty, and then he does it, and then I go, good boy, and give him a good chin scratch. That is positive reinforcement that lets him know what go potty means, and that going potty here outside is a good thing to do. It is very helpful to give a dog a treat for going potty in the right place. The reason that I just used a good boy and a nice little chin scratch, petting him in the way that he likes as a positive reinforcement, is because outside he is just so curious about everything. He wasn't really focusing enough on the treat. So if it takes him more than 5 seconds to realize that there's a treat and go to eat it, he's not really gonna make the connection with going potty here is what gets me this treat. So that's why I decided to go for a reward that I could do more quickly. But if your dog notices the treat right away, then by all means, a treat is a great way to reward your dog for going potty in the right place. That is a quick crash course in how to potty train your dog, and this works for both puppies and also newly adopted adult dogs, can work for any age and breed and size of dog, but just know that dog training is not one size fits all, and that you may have to try a few different approaches to see what works for your dog. Thank you, Ozzy, for helping me demonstrate how to potty train your dog, and leave some comments below if you have any questions or comments for me. Thank you. See you next time.